Capcom have been kind enough to give me a chance to play through the entirety of the upcoming Resident Evil 3 remake over the past week, and having now done so multiple times, I wanted to share with you my thoughts with regard to how the game fares, not only as a remake of the original PlayStation title, but also as a follow-up to last year's phenomenal Resident Evil 2. I think it's fair to say that any of us who grew up with a Sony PlayStation in their home have at least a somewhat passing familiarity with the first 3 Resident Evil games, of which Nemesis was the more action-focused among them, introducing dodging and reaction mechanics to the combat, as well as a comprehensive system for crafting bullets and explosives. Resident Evil Nemesis still stuck to many of the series' traditions as they were at the time, with survival and resource management playing a key part in deciding how to approach any given situation. And of course, the tyrant Nemesis, in its constant pursuit of the player, introduced more choice and open-endedness to the game, with multiple paths and story outcomes to be explored across consecutive playthroughs. So now, with more than 20 years and 2 previously remade entries behind it, the Resident Evil 3 remake is released. The aforementioned focus on action of the original has been dialed up to a massive degree here, and the game makes no qualms about letting us know that returning protagonist Jill Valentine is, unlike the heroes of Resident Evil 2, an abject professional entirely capable of taking the lead on a citywide zombie outbreak. This makes for an incredibly refreshing take on situations that might be otherwise wholly familiar to the series by now. Upon meeting up with other combat veterans, Jill is immediately prepared to get to work and has no patience for any slowdown along the way.
Jill? It's me again. You topside yet?
Working on it. So what's the plan?
The old tanks got me clearing the tracks. You mind getting the subway infrastructure back online?
And how do I do that?
Let's start by restoring power. I'll navigate you to the substation once you hit the main road.
Copy that. Let's do this fast.
The gameplay mechanics of Resident Evil 3 follow similar, with the addition of a new dodge mechanic, coupled with a slow motion counterattack, as well as rapid button presses allowing Jill to minimize the amount of damage received during a grapple with zombies. These actions replace the defensive knives from Resident Evil 2, which could be embedded into an enemy to escape from a grab, making them a valuable commodity. Instead here, Jill's combat knife is relegated to just being an unbreakable melee weapon, with which she shows far more skill than her series predecessors did, actively dodging back and forth during a flurry of attacks. A number of weaponized environmental hazards also exist, of which Jill can take advantage, such as explosive barrels quickly wiping out whole groups of zombies, and electrical generators which can be shot to temporarily stun surrounding enemies. And of course, all this new higher octane action is pushed forward by the recurring pursuit of Nemesis, a massive tyrant-class zombie who will sprint, leap buildings, use long-range attacks, and fire conventional weaponry, all to achieve its singular goal of stopping Jill Valentine. While Resident Evil 3 regularly places us into scenarios that push us hurriedly forward, an appearance from Nemesis drives this up to a whole other level. The monster can be temporarily disabled if we have the means or bullets to spare, which rewards us with a special item each time, but for the unprepared, the absolute best approach is escape. The entire campaign's pacing has been somewhat ramped up compared to previous entries. The majority of locations function now as bespoke set pieces within which short bursts of combat, boss fights, or escape sequences play out before we're shuffled along to the next area.
Bitch can't even swim.
Resource management and survival is downplayed to some degree, with ammunition and healing items being exhausted and replenished almost from room to room. But the higher difficulty levels mitigate this design change and force the player to think hard about every bullet spent and zombie avoided. While nothing in Resident Evil 3 comes close to replicating the predecessor's RPD station with regard to interconnected areas and puzzle solving, there are still some number of exploration-driven areas, each one just on a somewhat smaller scale. However, with this, there is one particularly undeniable thing. Resident Evil 3 is a short game. I personally reached the end credits 25% faster than in the previous title. While some locations from the PlayStation original have been expanded upon, far more have been entirely removed and not replaced with anything else. No longer do we have split paths to choose from when Nemesis appears, nor are there multiple campaigns or endings to be achieved, meaning that the first credits to roll will likely be the last for most players. While this won't be an issue for many happy to reattempt higher difficulties and unlock bonus items, there's no way any review of Resident Evil 3 could get away with not mentioning these few downsides. So while I feel that Resident Evil 3 does fail in some ways as a remake, it absolutely succeeds in being a fantastic reimagining of the original. The moment-to-moment action, coupled with a nice variety of open areas to explore and lots of checkboxes to tick for completionists, makes for a wonderful whole that is somewhat let down by its overall short length. However, for a game that otherwise succeeds in everything it attempts, I'm absolutely happy to recommend this to anybody looking for more of what the series has brought us so far. If you've already had a chance to play through the title yourself, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments, as I expect this is going to be a pretty divisive one. But either way, thank you for taking the time to hear my thoughts on the game. I'll see you next time.